You were around when Tupac first joined Death Row, right?
Yeah.
So what was that like? Tupac gets out of jail. This is coming off of the number one. He had the number one album in the country on Interscope, Me Against the World, and then he comes out of jail, joins Death Row, and it's like a nuclear bomb dropped. California Love comes out, and it's the biggest thing on the planet. Describe that whole experience.
I was it's still surreal. Like sometimes I still sit up and listen to Crazy on Makaveli album with me and Pac, and I just like, wow, it's real. It happened. It doesn't, it kind of doesn't seem like it, but truly I feel like, we lost a lot. Like we gained a lot from getting Tupac at Death Row and just having him come around. I gained a wonderful friend, but shortly after I gained him, I lost him. And I did epic work with him, timeless music, stuff that'll last way longer than I could live. So, it's priceless. It's just too. It's like I have a loss for words trying to explain it. But Pac came to Death Row. He brought an air of a passion that we hadn't seen before, and we was all passionate about our music. That's how Snoop did Doggy Style. That's how he, wrote the majority of the Chronic with Dre, and had the appeal that he had and had the response that he had from the people because he was so passionate and he knew. He told me, he said, I wanted to be the biggest rapper in the world, and look at me. And I'm saying, when you have people that have those kind of drives and ambitions around you, and we feel like we at the top of the charts with the way we doing our music, the passion that we putting into it, and we getting grand results. We selling millions of records, and then all of a sudden, this guy that we look at that's, equal to us, that's great like us, he comes around and he just shows a brand new side of greatness that we never seen. And I worked with him and I hung with him, and I smoked and joked with him, and a lot of Tupac rubbed off on me, and he was a great dude. He knew how to work fast. He knew how to put his pen and his paper together and get a beat and make use of his time, make hit records in a short amount of time. Time that it takes some people, to do the time that it took him to do great things, it takes people lifetimes to do, and he did it in a short time. So it was just wonderful being around him, getting to meet him, working with him, and just, having some of his passion rub off on me.
I interviewed Mo Preem, Tupac's brother, and one of the things that we talked about, because I'd heard this before, but he actually confirmed it in our interview, was that he felt that Tupac knew that he was gonna die soon, and he had this kind of urgency to hurry up and get this music out. I had heard that he had this sort of drive in the studio where, like, I gotta hurry up and get these songs out because I don't have a lot of time. I gotta hurry up. Like,
Yep.
I heard he would get angry at like producers and other rappers if they took too long.
Yep.
Because he had this urgency about him.
Yep, he had to express himself. He had to get it out. He had to get it out. Yep, that's real. That's true.
Did you feel any of that working with him?
Yeah, he had an amazing time schedule. Like I said that myself. Mo Preem is his brother. Tupac actually introduced us to. So for me to be around him myself and get this feeling and this vibe, and then have this kid die, while we was like, I talked to him 3 days before he got shot. That was the last time I talked to him, but it just freaked me out because he was moving like he knew he was gonna die. So for him to tell me physically or say verbally or specifically, like, Bad Azz, I know my time is short. He never said nothing like that, but I could tell that he knew. When he died, and I looked back on the last 10, 11 months that I spent with him out of his life, he knew he was gonna die. He probably didn't know what day, he probably didn't know, but God might give us that sign, who knows? He was so close to his death that I feel like maybe the universe gave him a sign that he didn't have that long, so he was just on race status. He was moving fast like a race every day. He was doing 3 and 4 and 5 songs and doing interviews. He was filming movies, leaving the studio, going to film a movie, and just doing all kinds of stuff. He was on airplanes here and getting on stage, and he was just moving fast. Like his days was filled up. Things that it takes people, like I said, a lifetime to do, he was doing them in a week, 2 weeks, So
Yeah, it's crazy actually speaking to people and hearing them confirm this type of thing. It's almost like he actually knew what was about to happen. He needed to hurry up and put together as much of his life's work as possible.
Yeah, that's kind of how I look at it as well. He was getting all the stuff done that he wanted to get done, or that he felt he had time to do before his time was over. He did a wonderful job. He's a very great example to me in a lot of ways. Like, he was very intelligent, so I learned from him in that sense that he was smart, he was well spoken, he was a great artist. He knew how to write down his thoughts and his passion, his experiences in a lyrical form, and spit it to the world, and then have them embrace it in a way where they not only embraced it, they related to it. Because a lot of the things that he talked about, like, my mom only has 2 children, I'm her only son, so how many kids you think go through that too? And not only just being a friend of Tupac, and me and my sister have different fathers, So when you have that close of a similarity to a person, just in that sense, when you could relate, I'm my mom's oldest child. He's his mom's oldest child. He has a little sister. His mom had a kid with another man other than his father. That's what my mom did. I had a stepfather. So it's just the similarities was something that I feel like it could influence you to be the best that you could be when you see how comparative you are to this guy when he says how he grew up and he speaks on some of the things that he went through. That's why you have a lot of kids later on in the 20 years that he done died. Look at how many famous rappers we got. Look at how many people that had the Tupac influence. And I wouldn't want to disrespect no rappers by saying it, but I haven't saw any rapper blow up in the last 20 years that didn't have a little Pac in them.
Sure. Now, Tupac came, and then shortly after, Dr. Dre left. What was different during that time, that kind of transitionary time?
It was no difference. It was just like, me as a youngster, I was just kind of I was stationary. I was trying to see where I fit, and I knew I was going with Snoop. I developed a relationship with Pac. If you notice, I was the only outside feature besides the Outlaws on Makaveli album, and he made a statement with that. So, to show that he still had a connection with the Pound and the Death Row thing, but he was leaving it all. I feel like shortly after Makaveli album or whatever would have been the last rap, I heard that the next album was supposed to be his last album on Death Row. I'm not 100% sure, but my point is this: whatever Pac was doing to finish, if he would have lived long enough, and he knew this, he was planning like, if I live long enough, I'm gonna get off Death Row. He's starting his own stuff, and I can't tell you who all he would have been cool with because he was fed up. He was just fed up with friends and enemies, because it seemed like everybody that he dealt with turned their backs on him in a certain way. So, he was at that point where he was dealing with the Outlaws. I knew that very, very positively, and whoever else I can't really say. He had a few other friends that he mentioned to me that he felt highly of, and they was gonna be on this project that I was on, One Nation, which was a project that I know he was working on besides Makaveli. And that was it. That's all I heard. That's all she wrote. That was it. Like, I remember him playing Makaveli album for me, telling me that I made the album. He showed me the album cover that Risky did. I freaked out. I told him he was crazy because he had himself on the front cover looking like Jesus Christ. And I just marveled at the cat. I looked at him and was in awe. Like, a lot of times I had to pick my jaw up off the ground because he was just so amazing, and how he would approach things and how he would bring it to the light. It was just wonderful. It taught me a lot. It taught me a lot about my character and myself, and a lot of things I want to stand up for, and a lot of things that I'll sit down for. And I'm a man. I don't have a problem saying I don't want to fight for that, because it's a lot of stuff that I don't want to stand up and die for. And just like any other real person, any person that love their life, they say if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. And I stand up for a lot of stuff. I just don't stand up for shit that I don't want to go all the way with, and stuff that might get me killed, or you know, stuff that's just not me all the way, or I don't want to take it all the way to the limit. Sometimes I sit down on it, you know.
Well, I remember I was talking to QD3, who was one of Tupac's producers, and I guess he produced on Makaveli, right?
Yeah.
And he told me that Pac actually wanted to give away Makaveli as a mixtape for free. And he told me how he was like about to cry, like when he heard the news, because he had produced songs on it. Did you hear that as well? You know, being on the album?
Yeah, I heard stuff like that. I heard that you know, he changed his name because he wanted it to be like an independent album. He wanted it to be his last shot at the vengeance. You know, I knew this for a fact from himself, but I didn't specifically hear him say that, you know, he was gonna do it like give it away for free or do it like a mixtape. But I did say that I did understand that he wasn't expecting or didn't care for the album to get as big as it did, and maybe he was gonna give it away, or he was gonna put it out on an underground platform or leak it in a certain way, because you know, by him dying and them putting the record out how they wanted to, they didn't change anything, I'm sure of that, but by them releasing it when they wanted and putting it out when they wanted and putting the promotion behind it that they wanted because he was dead, we'll never know, you know, exactly what was Pac's main intentions. I'm proud that I got to, you know, I met him. I was around when he did the whole All Eyes on Me album. I didn't get on one song. I'm not disappointed. I felt like I probably could have rapped. I don't even hear a song on there that fits me, that I felt like, you know, even some of the stuff that I was there when I created. And I had already done a song with Pac during that time while he was doing All Eyes on Me. And I feel like, you know, the universe for me is something that, you know, it puts me where I'm supposed to be. It puts me where I'm not supposed to be. It takes me away from situations where I'm not supposed to be. So I feel like I wasn't supposed to be on that. And to be on Makaveli album and to have that album be one of the deepest, craziest, like, awesome Tupac records. And it's not actually my favorite. My favorite Tupac album is Me Against the World, you know, as a friend and a fan of Pac. But I love Makaveli is like my second favorite Tupac installment. And I love it. And I love it like I'm not on it. So, you know, I think he did a great job, and whatever he was aiming to do, he got his job. Just one of the biggest hip hop records of all time.
I've kissed him, and he's a good kisser, and that's all I'm gonna say for that.
Yeah, he's a good kisser.
He's an excellent kisser, probably one of the best I've ever had.
I'm not gonna lie, man. To be non-biased, I don't know, man. I don't know, man. It's been like 4 or 5 days, man. It's like, I don't know. It might be a little too late. I don't know, man. It depends on how hard he come. He gotta come with some ether type shit, man.